What's up, everybody? Back at you with another episode of Blood on the Razor Wire TV, where we bring it to you real and we bring it to you raw. Hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, make sure you share the video, and leave a comment. Some people have asked me to do some reading out of the book. So we're going to do a little reading out of the book, but we're going to talk about the whole. We're going to talk about the SHU. We're going to talk about what happens in rec cages. You can see from behind me, that's a rec cage. That's what it looks like, man, when you go to rec. 5 days a week, 1 hour a day, they put you in this cell behind me. Not the way you want to live, I promise you that. But let's talk about the book, and then we'll talk about some of my experiences and some of the things I've seen in the hole. Some of the things that you should think about, man, when you're out here committing crimes or when you're on the wrong path, because this shit could happen to you too. This is from chapter 35. The battle with Ace and the guys has earned me my first trip to the special housing unit. My stomach is in knots now that my adrenaline has slowed down. First, I'm placed in an outside recreation cage where I'm strip searched. Once that is done, I'm given an orange jumpsuit, new socks, boxers, and t-shirts. I am left in that recreation cage for an hour, pacing back and forth, angry as my face swells up. With stitches in my lip, my mouth feels awkward. An SIS lieutenant standing at the gate, waving me closer to him. He tries to engage me in conversation through the rust-stained fencing. Marsh, does this have anything to do with what happened with Pike, the lieutenant asks. What are you talking about? I answer his question with my own. What are you talking about? Don't play stupid. I need to know if I need to shut my compound down. Man, you left me out here all this time to ask me that bullshit? To do your job? You want to be an asshole, Marks? I will send your ass to California. Your dumb ass will be in Victorville, he says, pointing his finger at me. Get the fuck away from me, jerk off. I'm done talking to you, punk. I point my finger back at him. Okay, pussy, you'll see when your punk ass is on that bus. Fuck you, punk. I say this and turn my back to him in an act of disrespect. For a split second, I felt like spitting in his face since he called me a pussy. My decision not to was motivated by the fact that had I done so, the guards would have likely beat me to a pulp. Ace and my new enemies are only a few cages away. The same cop walks to their cage for a few words. On his way back past my cage, he says nothing, but he does throw me the bird. I returned his goodbye with my own middle finger and a nice verbal fuck you that I hope he remembers. It's standard protocol for most real convicts to refuse to speak with an SIS officer. I never want anything in my file that says I cooperated with them. Keeping my mouth shut is observing basic principle. Arguing with the SIS cop and not answering him buys me 3 more hours in the recreation cage. All I really want to do is get a mattress and lay down. I have a headache, my ribs hurt, and parts of my face are black and blue. On top of that, my lip feels like it is so swollen it might burst. The guards eventually take me to a cell door. To my delight, no one is in the cell. The single cell was likely earned because of my refusal to answer any of the lieutenant's questions. They have no idea who I have problems with or why. After what happened with Pike, I'm sure they want to avoid anyone stabbing me. Not that they care if I get stabbed. Only that they do not want any of the backlash that might come with it. With all the violence in recent days, the prison goes on lockdown once again. I couldn't care less. When the prison shuts down, most people are safe. Both staff and prisoners. I'm only alone for a few days before there is a knock at the door. Marks, you're getting a cellmate. I'm not taking no cellie, I say, jumping up from my bed and rushing to the door. Oh, you're getting one, Marks. It's your boy Pike. At the mention of Pike's name, my stress subsides. 2 officers bring Pike to the cell, handcuffed in front. The food flap on the door opens for me to cuff up. Pike comes into the cell. He's uncuffed first, then me. The hard metal door slams behind us. It's been 14 days since I last seen Pike. He looks depleted, but is able to smile. You all right? Man, they fucked me up, Chad. Not really, man. They got me on these pain pills, and I'm still hurting all over. Pike looks horrible, stitches in his lip and nose. Metal staples decorate the gashes in his head. His hands have staples in them as well. Then he takes off his shirt and shows me his back. It is adorned with grotesque knife wounds. Each wound is surrounded by black and blue marks. His hands look even worse, as if they've been in a meat grinder. I turn away. I don't want to see anymore. I look out the small square window in the cell door and stare at the gloomy yellow of the door across from ours. I can't believe it, Pike. They did that shit to you. Me either. I thought it was a possibility, but not this bad. They told me you died, man. Fuck. I might have been better off if they killed me. It would have hurt my parents, but they would have gotten over it. I got life anyway. This shit is killing them and me, slowly. You gotta hold on, man. You got your appeal still pending. Man, that shit's a joke. They ain't never letting me out. I'm startled and look up quickly. The same SIS lieutenant is at the door. What's up, I ask. I'm not here to see you. Where is Pike? Prison is real, man. Prison is a place that you really don't want to be. This stuff that happened to Pike could happen to you. Stabbed over 30 times. Ends up sitting in the SHU for almost 2 years, I believe, before they finally state placed him. That's when they take a federal prisoner and they send you to a state prison somewhere. And they ended up state placing Pike because the Aryan Brotherhood had stabbed him. They had put out the hit on him, the Texas Aryan Brotherhood, California Aryan Brotherhood prospect member. But at the end of the day, they stabbed the wrong dude. He was someone that they had the wrong guy. They just thought he was someone else. He really wasn't the dude. But they stabbed him anyway, right? And the SHU, the hole, the box, whatever you want to call it, right? The recreation cage behind me. You get to go there 1 hour a day, 5 days a week. Other than that, you're locked in this cell, you're locked in this cage, and you're there. You're there, man. 23 hours a day, 7 days a week. Well, really 5 days a week. You get to go out for that 1 hour. The other 2 days, you don't get to go out. You know, like I talked about, I believe in that video about Martin, being able to leave that being able to leave that cell and walk to that recreation cage. It's a relief, man. You get to walk. You get to come out of there. You get to experience a little more space than the space that's the size of your bathroom at your house. And I've seen some crazy things happen in the SHU, man. This recreation cage, you know, I've seen people in USP Lee where, you know, let's say me and you had a beef on the compound. We get in a fight. We end up going to the hole. Or you stab me and I stab you. We go to the hole. And back then they used to call it marrying up. So anybody watching this video, you know what marrying up is. Let's say we just had a small little thing on the compound. What they would do is they would take me out of my cell in the hole, take you out of your cell, and they would put us in a recreation cage. And if we could talk it out, we can both go back to the compound. If not, we're going to sit in the hole for 4 or 5 months, sometimes a year, sometimes 2 years, waiting on a transfer to another prison. But see, they tried to limit all the transfers back then. They started changing things. Cost money to transfer people. So instead of transferring you, they tried to marry you up. And I remember being in USP Lee, and there was this big-ass dude. He comes into the recreation cage with the dude that he had jumped on, that he had beat up in USP Lee. I believe it was in, I want to say it was in D Block. And the little skinnier dude's in the rec cage already, right? And in these rec cages, they got these sliders. They'll unhandcuff you. They'll put you in this little area. And then they got a slider where the cop could slide it and open it. Well, on this day, the little skinny dude, he gets the cuffs taken off. He's waiting. He knows he's about to marry up with this dude. This dude that just jumped on him and beat him up. So what they do is they bring the big dude out. He's in handcuffs. They never close the slider. The slider's open. And when they put the dude in the rec cage, the other kid comes in, right in that little slider area, that little box, and he starts wailing on this kid. And the dude can't do nothing. He's handcuffed behind his back. And he's just turning his head. And the kid's just hitting him. He says, yeah, you too big for me. And he's just wailing this dude like, it's my turn. He keeps screaming, it's my turn now. It's my turn. And the dude's like, oh, you punk ass motherfucker, you just gonna hit on me like this? And he was getting his get back. He didn't have no plan on marrying up with this dude. Maybe he just wanted to get out of the prison. Maybe he was embarrassed at this dude that was in his car. They were in the same car. This dude had just beat him up. So he's like, man, I'm not going back out here. Maybe that's what he was thinking. He was embarrassed. And he had his opportunity to put his hands on this dude. And while he's whooping this dude, he's telling him, hey, I got no wins with you. You're too big for me. But it's my turn. It's my turn. And I'm like, I'm watching this, man. Like, wow. And the cops are like, hey, stop hitting them. Stop hitting them. They hit the deuces. It takes about 2-3 minutes for everybody to run out there. And they don't open the rec cage until everyone's there. So all this dude could do is just stand there and get punched in the face. Just get punched. Imagine if this kid brought a knife with him. What would happen if he brought a knife with him? So many people are violated, man, in this rec cage. This rec cage, this is the battleground, man. This is like a steel cage match that you can't get out of. This is like a UFC fight that you can't get out of. You're here. And sometimes they put 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 people in this cage. And I'm sure that some of you have heard the stories about the SHU program, right? So many people have been devastated at the SHU program. They've been beat. They've been killed in a recreation cage, man. I was with this one kid, and I had knew him years before. He ended up in the SHU program. And what the hell was his name? Can't remember this kid's name, man. But long story short, he goes into a rec cage. He's in the SHU program. He's not a gang member, probably doesn't belong there. When I knew him, he was a normal dude. When he went to the SHU program, he got into, some kind of verbal confrontation with a dude at the door. Dude was a gang member. Eventually, they end up putting them in a rec cage together on accident. And they just destroyed this dude, man. They almost kill him. They jump on his head. They kick him. They beat him. Just vicious, man. And I seen him years later. And when I seen him years later, he was limping. His hand was folded over. And he used to wipe drool off his mouth. That's how bad they beat him up in this rec cage. Being in the hole, man, being in the rec cage, it's polluted, man. You want to go out there. You want to smell that air. You want to walk that, 100, 200 steps that you get to the rec cage. And the air smells good when you first hit the door. And then it's all bad, man. Because that fresh air is polluted. It's contaminated. It's contaminated by your circumstances. It's not the same fresh air you smell outside of the gate, man. It's not the same fresh air you smell when you go to work and you're working on a roof. It's not the same fresh air you smell when you're on your way to a pizza shop. It's not the same fresh air you smell when you're taking your son or your daughter out to dinner or your wife or when you're walking into a movie theater. It's just different, man. The tone is different. It's just not the same. What kind of air do you want to breathe? You want to breathe that good air or that contaminated air? That polluted air? It's up to you, man. It's your decision. So many things happen in these places. People can tell 1,000 stories, man. But this shit is real, man. Solitary confinement destroys people. Drives them crazy. Do you remember the video about my boy Jack John Powers? Bit his fingers off. Tattooed his whole body with a razor blade and an ink pen. Cut his Achilles tendons out. Cut his earlobes off. Cut his scrotum open. Took one of his balls out with a razor blade. Being locked in a cell drove him that crazy that that's who he became. Like Hannibal Lecter, he became his own cannibal. Biting his own fingers off. How hard is it to bite your own fingers off? How far do they need to push you in order for you to want to do something like that to yourself? Think about it, man. Federal prison, locked in a cage. You have no say-so over your own life. You can't walk out when you want. How many nights do you go to bed hungry? I promise you, man, the food in the SHU is absolutely horrible. There's plenty of nights that you'll go to bed hungry. There's plenty of nights where you'll sit in that cage and you'll think about your family. And you'll think, man, why did I ever put myself in this position? Think about it, man. Don't run away from your freedom. Chase it. You're in the driver's seat. You're driving. This is not the life you want to live. This is not it, man. You don't want to be stabbed. You don't want to be in a rec cage with 5 or 6 dudes that you don't know. They might all be homeboys. They might be drinking. They might have went out to rec after they were drinking. And let me tell you something else, man, about being in that cell. How it devastates you. Being in that cell devastates you so much that sometimes it's 10 degrees out and they give you these little slip-on shoes. Or sometimes they give you Crocs. All you got is a pair of Crocs and one pair of socks, likely with holes in them. And you're so thirsty to go to rec, to get out of that cell, to walk down that range. You go out there in 10-degree weather, 0 below weather, and your feet are freezing. And then they get real nasty. Something happens in the SHU. Not all the time. Sometimes they just say something happened. And they leave you out there for 2 or 3 hours. And they do it because they don't want you to go to rec. Because they just want to sit in the office and chill. They don't want to have to walk to your cell and handcuff you. And walk you out to rec. Your feet are freezing. Give you these bullshit ass coats. And you're almost to the point like, damn, man, I ain't never coming out here. And sometimes I would do that. I said, man, I ain't coming out here no more. Then 4 or 5 days later, the cell would be killing me. And I'd have to go outside, man. I'd have to brave the cold. Say, man, I'm about to I'm going out here. I got to walk down this range. I got to get out of this cell. It's driving me nuts. But sometimes your cellie needs some alone time. You never have alone time, man. So you got to go out to rec. He stays inside. Next day he goes out. You stay inside. It's hard being stuck in a cage or in a cell with the same dude all the time. 24 hours a day. It's horrible. You got to sit there and smell him taking his shit. It's horrible, man. It's not the life you want to live, I promise you that. You're in the driver's seat. 2 roads. You choose which one you're going to go on. For real, man, I hope this video makes you think about a couple things. Think about what it's like. Take a look at this rec cage. Take a look at the pictures of a SHU cell. Why do you think they call it the box? In New York State, they call it the box. Because you're in a box, man. You're in this box. And you can't get out. You want to be in a box? Definitely not, man. Blood on the Razor Wire TV. Hit that subscribe button. Hit the like button. If you haven't got the book, I recommend that you do, man. With respect, until tomorrow, we're out.